I really love these stamp sets with big flower bouquets, but they are often quite expensive. So I thought I will try drawing something myself. I started with a sketch. While I'm not the best when it comes to drawing, there are a few leaves and flowers that I can draw, and I just put them together and made some sort of a bouquet. Then I made it digital, I printed it out onto a cardstock, and here is the result. Just like I would stamp it. So let's add some color to it. I decided to use coloring pencils, more specifically the Prismas, but of course the choice of coloring medium and the brand is up to you. I started with the yellow middle of the flower. I used orange and yellows. I will pop the numbers of the colors on the screen if that's something that interests you, and you will find them also over on my blog. If you are new to my channel, when it comes to coloring, I never think about where the light is coming from. All I'm trying to do is create depth. So I used a little bit of orange around the edges, then I blended it with a darker yellow, and I also added bright yellow in the middle. And the process of applying the colors was in layers and building the color, which I did on all of the coloring. For the petals of the big flower, which should be a daisy, not sure if I got it right, it should be some kind of a daisy. Here I used 4 colors, but the 2 main ones are magenta and light peach. And then I also used orange for the transitioning between those colors and sepia for a little bit of shading. I started very light and first applied the magenta and the light peach, half and half or 3/4 with the magenta and 1/4 with the peach. Then I applied the second layer and here I added the orange, and I also applied the sepia just at the bottom of the petal, and if there was an overlapping petal I also applied the sepia on the sides. On the sides it's not really too visible, I did not spend too much time on it. This is the furthest my shading will go. I really do the bare minimum when it comes to shading. As you can see, I also did these flicks using the magenta and the orange. I wanted to create these lines that you can see on petals to create a texture. And I was just applying multiple layers and building the colors using the magenta, orange and light peach. And I was blending them together until I was happy with the look. I really love this color combination. I was also trying the pencils from Faber-Castell that I have as well, but their magenta is more red. It's nice, but not what I wanted. But regardless which pencils I would use, they both blend very well on this cardstock. Did I actually mention which cardstock I used? It's the Bristol cardstock from Canson. I really like to use it with coloring pencils. I'm not going to show you all of the coloring of the big flower. Not only I was putting my head in front of the camera, but it would be a very long video. Coloring with pencils in general takes a little bit longer compared to, let's say, watercolor markers. Especially the coloring of the big flower took some time. And I was doing the same over and over. It was all about the layering. So let's move to the next part, which is the coloring of the 3 smaller flowers. I wasn't sure what colors to use. For this card, I wanted the colors to be sort of a transition between the cards I made in the past few weeks, which were on the pink-purple side, but I didn't want to use autumnal colors yet. I ended up using purple at the bottom of the petal and yellow at the top, or actually the yellow is the color sand, and I added a little bit of sepia as well. I started light and I was layering up and building up the colors. Again, to represent texture, I did these short strokes with the purple and I was blending the colors together. I colored the other flowers the same way and then I moved on to the leaves and berries. Here it was much simpler, darker at the bottom, lighter at the top. I didn't need to apply too many layers because it wasn't necessary. For the big green leaves, I actually started by lightly covering the full leaf with a dark green and intensified the color at the bottom for the second layer. And then for the top, I used lighter green. I thought that the lighter green was just too bright, that's why I applied the dark green first. For the other type of leaves, I used turquoise shade, and then the berries I colored blue. So the coloring is done. I really love the result. Absolutely love the colors, especially on the big flower. And before I continue with the rest of the video, while all these images are very easy to draw, if you do not feel like drawing this yourself, you can download the image over on my website completely for free. My website is called nordicbee.weebly.com and you will find the image under free stuff. I will also leave the link to it in the description below. The download goes over Dropbox. As far as I know, you don't need to have an account. Maybe just click away some pop-up message. But now let's finish the card. I decided to fussy cut the whole bouquet, just like I would do if I had a stamp without a die. Originally, I was planning to do one layer card, but I had a few smudges on the cardstock, so I decided to cut out the image. I really love the Prisma pencils, but at least in my experience, the Prismas tend to shed a lot. They just leave a little residue of color, and even if I'm careful and brush it away, I still have some smudges left over, and most of the time I'm not able to erase them. However, I was happy that I cut out the image because then I adhere it onto a card base using double-sided foam tape, which looks much more interesting. But first, I stamped the greeting. I searched my stash looking for the size that would fit well, and I found this sentiment. It says just for you, and I think it fits perfectly. My original idea was to make a vertical card, but at one point I was playing with the idea of making a horizontal card and add a greeting at the bottom. In this case, I prefer the vertical card. I adhere the flowers on top of a white card base. The foam squares I used are slightly higher than the foam tape I usually use, just by a millimeter or so, but it makes a difference and I really like it. Also, because I didn't cut out all the white parts around the flower, it would be just too fiddly. Using a white card base makes those white parts less noticeable. Lastly, to finish up the card, I adhered a few sequins across the panel. Some are in full sight, some are tucked behind the flowers. And it adds a little bit of sparkle to the card, which I really like. So that's it, that's the finished card. Can you tell it's not stamped? I probably would not guess if I did not know. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments. Don't forget to hop over to my blog for the free download. The link is in the description. And if you would like to have more inspirations for budget-friendly cards for which you don't need any stamps or dies, or maybe some sentiment stamps, check out the playlist that is on your screens now. So that is all for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.